Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Shall we start off? Are you able to hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir. Your voice is clear.
Okay. So I think we should start off. I have been told that you people preferred my teaching for 1 hour and then throwing the session open for questions, and also that there will be people who will want some explanation of something that I have talked about. They would want the explanation of that in Telugu. So I think I'll teach for an hour, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Is that okay?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, sir, it's okay.
Yeah. So, all right. Um, I hope you've seen the syllabus that I have shared with you on your WhatsApp group, or not your WhatsApp group, the one created by the department. I have shared the syllabus of both the papers that I'm supposed to be teaching. Um, the paper that we've been doing so far is something which is called, which is called, what am I saying? Um, since actually I'm a little confused. Early in the morning, I enjoyed some perquisitives of being married. As a result, slightly confused. So please forgive me for that. Okay. Um, that's the beauty of marriage. 28 years after it, you still have perks. I would rate it as the greatest institution man ever invented. Not the state, not all these things. Yeah. And sorry. Uh, so that other paper is called Western Political Thought 1, actually. Now, I had told you before that this paper, which is called Political Ideologies, this paper should not have been in the first semester, because what we are going to be doing in the second semester, okay, get repeated here in the first semester. Okay, we end the second semester with Rawls and libertarianism and those kind of things, and the third or fourth unit in the second semester has Michel Foucault and Jürgen Habermas. Now, if you look at your first, uh, if you've seen the syllabus, which I hope you have, it seems as if it is saying the heading is libertarianism, and under libertarianism we have Rawlsian liberalism, and we have Habermas's life world, the concept of life world, and who else is there? Charles Taylor's sources of the self, and I think even Will Kimlicka's multiculturalism is there in that. Now, in this, three things are getting repeated, which is uh, life world and Habermas, Rawlsian liberalism, and libertarianism. That we are going to do anyway in the second semester. So this is something that is not a great thing, but it's okay. We have to work with what we have been asked to work with, and so we'll work with it. It won't be the best way to do it, but let's try to make the best out of it. Uh, and then there are a couple of other problems with this paper. For example, feminism. Um, you have to study uh, Simone de Beauvoir, and you have to study uh, Kate Millett and Nancy Fraser, right? So that is probably okay. That is not such a bad thing, because that we don't do anywhere else. So that unit is okay, but the other unit which follows it, I think, ecologism. Ecologism is not a political ideology, first and foremost. Okay, it is absolutely not a political ideology, and ecologism is an environmental thing. If at all it has to be studied from a political perspective, it is not an ideology. From a political perspective, if you have to study it, you have to study it as public policy. Okay, because I don't know how many of you are actually aware, but there is a great deal of controversy over this whole idea of there is this great deal of controversy over the whole idea of global warming. Okay, while on the one hand, uh, you have uh, some people, uh, scientists, backed by a political lobby of Democrats in the United States of America, especially Al Gore. They have projected this as a failure of public policy and the inability of all the countries across the world in containing pollution, especially of greenhouse gases, which are which is rather basically carbon dioxide, and this, they said, has led to global warming. Okay, this is the contention that those people make. This particular lobby, which talks about uh, global warming and the ecology being harmed due to not adhering to pollution norms. Okay, but you will find that there is another group of scientists equally accomplished. As scientists go, they are equally accomplished. And these people are the ones who suggest that global warming has nothing to do with the pollution that is being caused in cities and urban areas of different parts of the world. Their contention, in fact, is that if at all there are any ramifications of this pollution, it is probably for it is probably these ramifications are probably for the wellness of people living in urban areas, because with so much pollution, and it's not just greenhouse gases, they say there are also oxides of nitrogen and carbon monoxide. And then there was at one time, because of fluoro, chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, there was also supposed to have been a hole punched in the uh, ozone layer that is blanketing the earth. And ozone is that substance that prevents, it's that gas that prevents ultraviolet rays of the sun from reaching uh, the earth in full intensity. And if they start reaching in full intensity, then the idea was that you will have to, you know, face epidemics like cancer, skin cancer, especially the white populations, because they have very little melanin in their skin pigmentation, and that's what makes them susceptible to skin cancer. So people will say only to respiratory diseases and probably cancer causing this thing you can talk about this, but global warming itself has nothing to do with pollution. And they have studied previous eras of global warming and also the ice ages that had come into existence at different points in the lifespan of the earth. And having studied these, they say that at that particular time there was no pollution that of the variety that we are talking about. Despite there being no pollution, there were there was global warming, at least on 3 occasions. So the argument that they are actually putting forward is that global warming has nothing to do with pollutions. So ecologism, strictly speaking, is a matter of science, and if at all you want to look at it as a political thing, then you have to look at it as an issue in public policy. Okay, and for example, if you're talking about public policy, let me quickly tell you how it is an issue of public policy. It is an issue of public policy because of the fact that the governments have not done enough in terms of controlling the emissions of toxic gases. And later on, of course, chlorofluorocarbons have been controlled. The levels of carbon monoxide have been brought up, but there is the problem of carbon dioxide, and that is why it's called a greenhouse gas. I don't know if you understand the analogy of the greenhouse. If you don't, you can ask me that as a question later on. I don't want to spend that now. So it's called actually a greenhouse gas, and so that is what is supposed to be causing this phenomenon of global warming. They say this is rubbish. There is no such thing. And then you have people like Yogi Adityanath who want to make oxygen from nitrogen, and he probably hasn't heard of carbon dioxide having more oxygen than carbon, and therefore you should separate carbon from the oxygen, and then you get O2. Okay, and that is what we require. All right, so uh, but can you separate? We can't. So it's a public policy issue, it's a failure, and we find whipping horses, which are easy targets. One of the things that people talk about is the automobile industry. It is the softest target for everyone to basically attack and say that this is the reason why uh, there is an increase in the emission of greenhouse gases. And if we don't encourage the automobile industry to carry on with the internal combustion engine, be it the Otto cycle, OTTO, not AUTO, Otto cycle engine or the Atkinson cycle engine, they say that these are the polluting engines that are leading to a quantum increase in the presence of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is leading to global warming, which is not something 10:30. Uh, so that is the thing. Sorry, you've now seen the perquisitives of marriage in action. Uh, yeah. Uh, so they say that we should ban the internal combustion engine and go for electric vehicles. Now, we as a race have a we are like sheep. I will one day discuss with you why the analogy is not something that I'm making as a or should I say derogatory thing about the human race. It has been established that we have a tendency to follow leaders. Okay, and if somebody says, let's do this, and everybody jumps onto the bandwagon. Okay, it just needs, and that's how the likes of Hitler, especially Hitler, an excellent communicator, was able to whip up that whole nationalism based in the Aryan supremacy. And that is how Hitler was able to, through purely good communication, uh, he was able to make Nazism a reality. Uh, and one of the most striking aspects of his uh, rule was that he never suffered from a lack of popular support. Everything he did had popular support because he would whip up a frenzy in people. Okay, he would whip up a frenzy in people and make them say yes to whatever he proposed. So there are studies on leadership that you should look at, and that will tell you the story of how the human race has a tendency to follow people and leaders are few, followers are many. Now, if you apply this same thing, people are all saying, yeah, we need to shift to electric vehicles. Okay, because otherwise we are going to have pollution. Now, please understand that as the urban environments are growing in the country, in any country, but let's say in India as an example, what do you find? You find that the thing that is happening is that people are madly shifting, especially the millennials, that is all you people, are madly shifting to the idea of electricity operated vehicles. Okay. Uh, Nobody is even thinking about where the electricity will come from, how will it be distributed. Those are all other aspects which are, I would say, logistics. But the first thing that I said when I spoke about the logistics, where is the electricity coming from? 90% of India's electricity comes from thermal power stations. And in order to make Telangana a power surplus state, the chief minister even gave permission to the Singareni Collieries Limited, okay, to start open cast coal mines. So, thermal power stations with open cast coal mines burning the coal to generate heat and convert that to electricity, isn't it polluting the atmosphere? And just imagine if more number of uh, vehicles on the road that use electricity, then the requirement for electricity will go up uh, by leaps and bounds. And solar electricity, we still haven't reached a stage where we can depend on it. It can be a substitute, which is there, adding a few megawatts here and there. But beyond that, it hasn't, the technology hasn't developed. And the other thing is that if you are going to run these on electricity, where are you going to store the electricity? If you're going to store the electricity in cars and two-wheelers in batteries, even if they are not the old lead acid batteries, but even if they are the new lithium polymer batteries, um, in these batteries, when these batteries reach the end of their life cycle, where are you going to dispose them? And lithium ion polymer is an explosive substance, literally an explosive substance. I don't know if you know the story of what happened with the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, as it is called, an aircraft that used lithium ion batteries. Airlines like Qantas of Australia and British Airways suffered explosions in the aircraft while they were parked, mercifully. Okay, and that is when they were grounded for one whole year. They were grounded for one whole year. So this is not eco-friendly technology. This is not at all eco-friendly technology. Because how are you going to dispose these batteries? How? They are not recyclable. They are not recyclable. So this is a matter of public policy, a debate for public policy. People laughed when what am I saying? When Donald Trump said global warming is not due to carbon dioxide. There are other reasons. Okay, and my favorite musician, Roger Waters, who did a whole load of shows in the USA, uh, had the pleasure of attending one of them. A staunch critic of Donald Trump. He, while performing one particular song, which is called Pigs, he even put this thing, what should we say, a projection in the background, which said, New York winters are very cold, so we should have global warming, says Trump. Trump never said that. He was joking. I mean, he was lampooning him simply because Trump said what a proper scientific lobby believed, that global warming is not due to the greenhouse gas effect of carbon dioxide. So you see, it's a public policy issue. It's not an ideology. So that brings me to ideologies. Okay. The term ideologies itself is laden with different kinds of interpretations. Okay. And when you say political ideologies, uh, are we asking ourselves that a political ideology, is it different from some other kind of ideology, like say a social ideology or what, economic ideology? Is there an economic ideology? I don't know. You have economic systems, but do you have ideologies? And normally, when I ask the question, what exactly is an ideology? Okay, so people will say ideology is the study of ideas, which is a terrible, terrible definition of what ideology is. Okay, and then do we have, do we use this in plural, ideologies? Because in the technical sense of the term ideology, it is used in the singular, like you say public policy. You don't say public policies, right? And there are reasons behind that. I'm not teaching you public policy, so I'm not going to go into that, but I'm certainly teaching you political ideologies. So let me tell you that saying something like an ideology can be also put in the plural is probably not a very prudent idea, because then everything becomes an ideology. Everything. Everything can become an ideology. It can be reduced to an ideology. And that is not what an ideology should be. Political ideologies, I don't know. if there is anything called a political ideology. So, for a moment, let's not talk about the political part. Okay, we will talk about the ideology part. There is this brilliant book, if you can get your hands on it, please read it. I would say it's a must read for an MA student. The name of the book is okay, The Concept of Ideology by Jorge Larin. He wrote this when he was a young man. He must have been 27 or 28. But it was probably the most path defining work of that time, and it is valid even today. The nature of discussions that Larin uh, picks up for consideration, they are quite brilliant. Now, ideology, first let's dismiss this. Let me disabuse you of this notion. This is not how ideology should be understood. You're not studying ideas, far from it, which is what they have made in your syllabus. They're making you study ideas. Okay, but that is not what ideology is. So, what is an ideology? The most common, and by that I mean the commonsensical, and perhaps the most innocent definition of ideology will be this is the most common and most innocent definition of ideology is that it is your worldview, right? So, what is a worldview? Okay, if you want to define a worldview, Why did I do that? So what is a vantage position? I can't see you people. Ideally, I think I should also shut off and then I'll be talking to a blank screen. Huh? But for a moment, let us consider that you are able to see what is behind me. I'm sure you're able to see what is behind me. And in doing so, you are getting a certain kind of a picture of what this room looks like from where you are sitting in front of your computer, listening to me and seeing what is behind me. If you're seeing that, then it looks like, well, it's a room which seems untidy. It is untidy, but don't tell my wife I said that, okay? And I'll be thrashed. So then you'll say it's got curtains, so there must be windows there. And you might see a bookshelf kind of a thing. So there might be, you might have an idea that there is a bookshelf, and you might see a poster like thing over my shoulder. So from where you are, this is the view of my room that you get. Okay, this is the view of my room that you get. So this is a physical vantage. A physical vantage. Please remember one thing. Let's move from this to a slightly better example. A slightly better example would be that let's say we are in a classroom, in a real classroom, okay? And there is a teacher, and if we go by how it is in arts college, the teacher stands at a slightly elevated level. That is a ego that our teachers have had. Okay, and then there is a whiteboard behind us, and you are first years, yes. So the first year class has a theater seating, which means it's like a gallery. Okay, uh, so one step, two steps, three steps, four steps, like that. Okay, each level is higher than the one before it, so that everybody gets an unobstructed view of the board and of the teacher. Okay, that I suppose is the purpose of that gallery like, I mean, sorry, the stadium like, yes, it's like an indoor stadium. Okay, so it it is like that. So if you're a student, you get to see the blackboard if the teacher or the board, okay, that the teacher writes on, and you also get to see the teacher. So your view is what is in front of you. Okay. Now, as your teacher, I get onto that elevated stage, and what do I get to see? I get to see these benches or tables arranged in a stadium like setting. It's a long classroom because you don't want the stairs to be too high. So it's a long classroom, and at the end of the classroom, right in front of the teacher, will be a window which is of the size of a door. Okay, and for purposes of ventilation, that window is kept open. So from my vantage, what do I get to see? I get to see the faces of students who are sitting in the front row, uh, or probably up to the third row. I get to see their faces fairly clearly. But after that, I won't be able to see their faces very clearly because of the fact that door like window is throwing light in straight into my eyes. And as a result of that, if I look away to the right to a certain distance, then I won't be able to make out people as well as I make out the ones who are sitting in the first 2, 3 rows. The rest, they look dark. They don't look, they don't appear very clearly. Okay, and if people are playing some games, it's a pity, the popularity of cricket has improved so much, has increased so much, sorry, and nobody plays book cricket anymore. In our days, students sitting at the back usually played book cricket. I don't know if you know what book cricket is. Anyway, so that is what people used to do. So those people are not very clearly visible to me. So from the vantage is where I am. I'm able to see a part of the class clearly, and I'm not able to see the rest of the class very clearly. That also works even for people sitting in the back, assuming that they are not up to playing games and exchanging funny notes about the teacher and all those things. If we put those aside for a moment and assume that people are actually trying to see and listen to what their teacher is telling them, then they also don't get to see my face very well because of the fact that the light comes straight onto my face. And if I move a little, then I get into a slightly shaded, I don't want to use the word shady, it's got all kinds of pejorative meanings. So if I am, if I move a little to the left out of the line of that light, then I am going into a shaded part and my face is not clearly visible. And sometimes, depending upon uh, converting that, I was against converting those boards to whiteboards with markers but there were a lot of people who felt that it should be done. When you write with a marker which is not black, and sometimes because we have no say in buying the markers, somebody from the department will buy those markers, and usually the stationery stores that these people go to, they unload the ones that don't sell too well. So if you have a red marker, especially a red, I speak out of experience, and if you have a blue marker, then if you're sitting at the back, what is written on the whiteboard is not visible. So that is not a vantage which is convenient for you to read what is on the whiteboard. So that is what is actually the vantage. So when I stand at a certain place, I get a view of the class in a certain manner, right? While you are sitting in front of me, you are getting a different view of that room. Okay, and I'm able to see people's faces, but people who are sitting behind don't get to see the faces of their friends because they are facing me. And even people in the front row don't get to see the faces, they don't get to see the people at all. Okay, whereas those sitting in the back can at least see the backs of their classmates. But those who are in the front row, the absolute front row, they don't get to see anyone unless they turn, right? Otherwise, they don't get to see their classmates. So we are in the same room, but our vantage, which is the position in which we are, the position in which we are, that vantage dictates what we get to see. It is very rare that we get to see the whole picture anywhere, not just a classroom. Okay, anywhere you go, wherever you are, that basically will dictate what you get to see, what you get to hear. So when I used to go for these rock shows, uh, international rock bands, including Roger Waters, who came twice to India, my favorite musician, um, and Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits. When I'm feeling a little down and out, I sing two of his songs to myself. Uh, one of them is called Why Worry Now, and the other one is called Brothers in Arms. I don't know. I find those two songs of Knopfler's, they are actually with the Dire Straits, not his solo albums. I find them very, very soothing, especially when I'm very sad and depressed, which I often am. So the listening experience is also a part of this vantage. It's not just the sight, it's also the hearing. And depending on other factors, you can also factor in smell and things like that. Okay, my wife wanted to always be in the front row to see a rock show. And I was against it because when you're in the front row, the speakers are kept to the sides, and those speakers are throwing sound to the back. Being in the front row, You get to see the musicians, but you don't get to hear them very well. And what makes things even worse is the fact that they have what are called monitors on stage to hear themselves. And you hear from those monitors and not from uh, the main PA system. So later on, I said, no, I'm going to be somewhere in the middle where they are clearly visible and also where I can hear every sound. And if it is a Roger Waters show, there are projections happening, there are blasts happening. So you get to see the whole works. So I used to say I'll stand in the middle. So I choose that vantage because of the kind of experience that I would like to have. I choose the vantage in order to have that experience, right? So this is where you can choose. But many times, like let's say you booked tickets in a theater and you got a lousy row, you're too much to one corner, okay? And well, you didn't choose your vantage. You got that vantage, and that's where you see things from. Why I'm emphasizing so much on vantage is because this is a very, very important thing that you need to understand when I say that a worldview is a vantage position. Okay, sometimes you can choose your vantage from which you want to view the world. At other times, to use an expression from Heidegger, you're thrown into a situation. And it is from wherever you are that you have to view the world and try to make sense of it. Now, the learned head of the department is teaching you political sociology. Uh, so, what is socialization? Anyone? Okay, I guess you will ask me, if at all, when I come to the end of the lecture, which is not very far now. Socialization is our being, the process of our being incorporated into society. Okay, socialization is that the process of being incorporated into society and how you conduct your social relations with others, how ideas regarding many things in the world are formed. So you have these groups of socialization. There is this thing called the primary group, which is family. Then you have the secondary group, which is not friends, actually, it's peer. Then you have the third, not group, sorry. This should, Jesus, what am I doing? Do me a favor, I didn't want this to come on to this. The primary level of socialization is the family group, not the primary group. Primary level of socialization is the family group. Secondary level of socialization is the peer group, and the tertiary, the third level of socialization is the reference group. Okay, why is the family primary group? Because from birth, your first point of contact is your family. Okay, if you're born, for example, in a Brahmin family, okay, if you're born in a Brahmin family, uh, which is orthodox, then you will have to first take care of your ablutions every day and only then start the day. So it's very necessary that you finish your ablutions before you start the day. And if there is a puja kind of a thing involved, then the ablutions are that much more important. Then this is the primary thing. So most South Indian Brahmins, most North Indians are not like that. They eat meat. Most South Indian Brahmins do not eat meat. There are exceptions. As families, not as individuals, which do eat meat. But most South Indian families eat vegetarian food. So your food habits are also those which are dictated by your Brahmanical family. And unlike a Buddhist who will not eat meat, some Buddhists also do eat meat. I'm told that the Dalai Lama, of all people, eats meat. But a Buddhist will not eat meat because he loves animals. Whereas a Brahmin will never eat, if he doesn't eat meat, it is never for the reason that he loves animals. It's because he hates them. Okay? This is dirty, filthy, those kind of reasons. Purity, pollution. That's not the reason why a Buddhist refuses to eat uh, an animal because of his love for animals. Buddha taught that animals have to be loved. And if you're a Jain, then you believe that the smallest creature, which may not even be visible to you, should not be eaten, because Jainism is based in the spirit of compassion. Okay, and that is the reason why they even wear the mask. The Jains are always masked. Okay, and the reason why they are masked is by accident, they don't want to consume some insect or something. The Jains also don't wear footwear because footwear is made out of animal skins or whatever it is. And therefore they believe that it is uh, an undignified thing to do. It's an indignity that you're heaping on, even if the animal is dead. Even if the animal is dead, it's an indignity you're heaping on it by skinning it and making footwear out of it. So the Jains have that worldview. That kind of view. So if you're born into a very orthodox Jain family, then you imbibe these groups, these values from the family group. If you are born into a family that is uh, uh, Buddhist, you're likely to imbibe those values. If you are born a Brahmin, then you imbibe those values. Okay. And if you look at various other kind of social groupings, you will find that it is not just about food and certain things. Let's say you're born into a family which has always supported the idea of a Hindu Rashtra. Like I have a few retired colleagues who are making hay while the sun is shining. They have retired from Osmania University and are now teaching at Central University of Andhra Pradesh after they have fought for a separate Telangana. They are now teaching in the University of Andhra Pradesh uh, just because of the BJP connection, RSS connection. And they have been socialized. Their fathers, grandfathers perhaps, I don't know, might have been, were, not the grandfathers, the fathers definitely were those people who were in the RSS akhadas. Okay, so these people, they are taking advantage of that. And that, well, this is Hindu Rashtra, so I believe in the Hindu Rashtra. That is what they would say. But if you're born into a family that has been secular, if you've been born into a family that is secular, then you will not imbibe this. You'll say, what Hindutva? There's no such thing as Hindutva at all. People like me will say there is no Hindu at all. There's only Sanatana Dharma. This Hindu is a Persian word. It's a Persian word, so I refuse to accept the term Hindu. And I believe that people who have lived here for centuries, doesn't matter if they came as invaders, what are you going to do? Are you going to, just because the number of American Indians is very small, you will allow the Americans to rule the roost there? And they went more recently to the American continents from Europe, displaced the people there, but you don't mind that. You also will join them there. People have gone from here, have been in the US and fought for a separate Telangana state after they have taken citizenship from the United States. So you have Reddy-based organization called ATA, uh, which is Association, American Telugu Association. Then you have a Kama-based thing called TANA, which is Telugu Association of North America. And there's a NATA. I don't know what that is. North American Telugu Association. I don't know who is doing that. So there also you maintain your caste systems. You maintain your regional identities from India, mind you. You go there and maintain your regional identities. You don't mind settling there. But, and you don't mind working for people who slaughtered the innocent people of the original inhabitants of those continents. You'll side with them, right? But you will fight for a separate Telangana here. You'll fund money. That is your socialization. That means your primary socialization is extremely strong. Those who have had primary group socialization, family group socialization, are the ones who are prone to these kind of political ideas. At a secondary level, it is peer group. Peer groups are your equals, group of your equals. And this happens when you come into contact with them in your educational institutions. Normally, you come into contact with them. They also have an influence on you. I have a very close friend who, when I joined Nizam College, I found myself not as well read as he was. And I was extremely impressed with him. And I said, I should also read all the things that this fellow has read. And I had no problem with him. He calls me my brother, and I've been great friends with him, and I've learned a lot from him, not just reading books, but even other things. So he's a big influence on my life. There are 2-3 people like that from my college. Not many from my school, unfortunately. But the reference group, the reference group is this third level. This can be, you might be, I was, for example, when I first read Freedom at Midnight by Larry Collins and Dominique Lapierre, the sacrifices of Gandhi in that are simply amazing. I was moved. I was very young when I read that book, still in school. And I was moved by the photographs of this man lying dead with bullet holes in his torso. Okay. And I reread that book again many years later. I felt exactly the same things that I felt when I read it the first time. So, one of my heroes is Gandhi. I felt exactly the same kind of, what should I say, empathy and humanity in Nehru. Today, he's a bad word. Both these people are bad words. Okay? If you believe in Gandhi, then you are a scoundrel. If you believe in Nehru, then there are worse still descriptions, which I can't use here. And people make scurrilous remarks about these great people. So this is one reference group. Gandhi and Nehru were a very, very important references in my life, which guided me into evolving a certain set of beliefs. And then I had references of people who taught me directly. People with whom my coming into contact made a big difference and made me look at the world in a different way. And one of them is Professor Sudipto Kaviraj. I call him my academic hero. Then there is this lady, Gurpreet Mahajan, amazing teacher, and she was another reference. So I can talk about that. And from school, I had a maths teacher called Mr. Rasool. And I haven't forgotten one thing that he said. If you enjoy yourself at this stage in your life, you will suffer for the rest of your life. But if you work hard at this stage in your life and educate yourself, then you will basically enjoy life later on. That's stuck in my head. It's stuck in my head. And even when I've had bad teachers, I never miss their classes because I made it a rule that I'll go to a class. Doesn't matter if the teacher isn't so good. I never missed classes. So, you see, this is a reference group socialization. These are all the things. And when you study socialization, you don't know which group is the most dominant or which group will be the most dominant in people's lives. Okay, sometimes the family group continues to be the most dominant uh, socializing group. Sometimes it's a reference group. Sometimes it's the peer group. Sometimes it's a combination of the peer and the reference groups. So they shape the way we look at the world. They shape the way that we look at the world. So secularism is what I believe in. I don't believe that this is a Hindu Rashtra. I don't believe in that. Everybody who's an Indian has as much right in this place as anyone else. There are no original people. Originals are gone. Okay, the other day I was talking about Caucasoid, Negroid, and Mongoloid. Today we are called Indo-Aryans by people like Virginius Khacha, Xe, it's pronounced Khacha, and Andre Bataille. They say that we are Indo-Aryans. Okay, and there has been a lot of intermingling of populations. And just because somebody doesn't do the things that you do, doesn't mean that he's different from you or that he has to have lesser treatment than you. Or just because you're dominant in numbers, you can steamroll other people. No, doesn't work. So this is what I mean when I say a worldview is a vantage from which one views the world. The greatness of Nehru was his embracing of humanity. Nehru wanted to create a global village. He didn't want to see the differences among people. He wanted to see commonalities, that unity in diversity He said, India has shown the way, and this is the way the world has to take. Please read Discovery of India and his selected works. He's such a wonderful writer. Such a wonderful writer. He's a pleasure to read. And if you read the debate between the German Jewish philosopher Martin Buber, okay, he's famous for his I thou theory. Martin Buber got into correspondence with Gandhi because Gandhi refused to accept the setting up of Israel. Okay, Gandhi was against the creation of Israel in the Palestinian region. In the Palestinian region. So Martin Buber wrote to him saying, why are you against this? And Mahatma Gandhi wrote back saying, I'm against it because these people have been living there for thousands of years. What you have as a reason for creating a new country there is what is written in your Talmud and the Torah, that this Israel, Judea, and Samara, those two regions, they will be the land of milk and honey. He said, you're relying on mythology to create a nation state and to displace people who are living there. And he said, what message am I sending to the Muslims in my country? He used to call them Musalmans. He never wrote it as Muslim. He said, what am I sending as a message to Musalmans in my country when I say, yeah, go ahead, you create an Israel there? So Martin Buber said, are you not moved by the plight of the Jews in the Second World War? What was done to them by Nazis and Hitler? And Gandhi said, you have my full sympathy. So Martin Buber said, you say you have my full sympathy, but you don't want an Israel. What is it that you want? He says, I don't want anything. I would have not given Hitler the pleasure of having put Jews in gas chambers. If I was a leader of the Jews, I would have told the Jews, go to a cliff, go to a cliff top, stand there in line and tell Hitler, we won't let you kill us. We will die, and jump off the cliff. And jump off the cliff. And he wouldn't have had the satisfaction of finding the final solution, as he called it, Hitler called it. And Mahatma Gandhi is not a man of words, he's also a man of deeds. In the 1920s, in Kerala, there was a thing called the Mopla Rebellion. In the Mopla Rebellion, when the Ottoman Turks basically were replaced by the regime of Kemal Ataturk, and he was westernizing it, and when the Muslims started the Khilafat movement. Gandhi gave his support to that. And unfortunately, in the Mopla region, which is now in Kerala, some of the Muslims went ahead and slaughtered Hindus. And everybody said to Gandhi, why are you not saying stop? He said, I am only interested in the fact that they are fighting for their freedom from the British. Okay. And if in this fight for freedom from the British, if all Hindus perish and a brand new society comes up built on separate foundations from the ones that it is built on today, so be it. So be it. But I support them because they are fighting the British. It is incidental that they're killing Hindus in it. And another thing that you must remember is that Gandhi has always, this is what Ramana Maharshi had to say about Gandhi. He said, Gandhi is truly a Mahatma because he does what he actually believes in, strongly believes in. He is not worried about the results. If the result that he wants comes, he's fine. If the result that he doesn't want also comes, he's still fine. So he said, Gandhi is the one person who has Nishkama Karma. So he's a great man. So my worldview has been this. I'll stop here. We'll go more into this. The initial sessions will take a bit of time. The others, the first 2-3 days will take a bit of time. I have to establish these properly. And then when we go into those philosophers, I'll just get into their ideas for now, because most of them will be repeating again. So I'll just give you, like Rawls, I'll tell you what is the original position, what is the veil of ignorance, what is the, you know, handicapping, what is the redistribution of primary social goods and things like that. Okay, so, or when we talk about life world, I'll just describe the life world. It'll be a descriptive thing, not analytical. It'll be analytical in the second semester. And when we talk about Will Kimlicka and multiculturalism, again, I'll keep it, what should I say? I'll keep it descriptive. And Charles Taylor has 5 sources of the self. I'll just mention those, and it's just not a big problem. This is just to make sure that you have something to write in your internal assessments. Okay, those are all things that we'll discuss in detail in the second semester. Sorry, I went longer than I thought I should. Please, I'm open to questions, criticisms, Telugu, all those. Those who want to ask questions in Telugu, please feel free. Those who want to contradict me, feel free. Those who want to disagree with me, feel free. Hello, is anybody there, or have people left?
There, sir.
Yeah. So nobody has questions? So usually, you don't get questions when one of the two scenarios happens. One is that you're completely convinced by what you have heard, which is not possible. Okay. And the more likely scenario is the second scenario, where you think there is no point in indulging with this man indulging in conversation with this man anymore. Let him close the meeting and get out, and we'll be fine. Hmm? Is that it? I guess that is it. So even when I go out for guest lectures, nobody asks me questions. I think they're just waiting to see me get out, and then they can go back to their life as it is. People, nobody is even going to contradict about Gandhi. Isn't somebody going to tell me Gandhi was such a bad fellow? Nehru was such a terrible fellow. We are having all problems because of them only. Those two have ruined this country forever and ever. I thought I threw that in because I thought that'll get me some questions. Hmm. Okay, we'll call it a day. So tomorrow again, please remember the socialization bit and the worldview bit. Okay, vantage position, worldview, and socialization. And then I'll get into the explanation of ideology, and then we'll move ahead. Is that okay? Should I close the shop?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Shop closed. Closed. I think I should put a board. Closed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank,
Righto.
thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. See you
Thank you.
tomorrow. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.